I used to think my problem was time management. It wasn't. It was that I didn't have boundaries around my time, which meant my time belonged to whoever wanted it. If someone texted me, I responded promptly. If someone emailed me, I stopped what I was doing and responded immediately. If something came up, I dropped everything. And what I didn't understand back then is this. Every time I did that, I was abandoning myself. Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole, Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery. If you're tired of feeling fragmented and overwhelmed, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of wholeness, authenticity, and healthy boundaries. I'm a woman in recovery who is also a boundaries coach and speaker. I share raw and honest insights from my own journey and the principles of 12-Step Recovery. Discover how to set boundaries without guilt or shame, overcome people-pleasing tendencies, manage your emotions effectively, cultivate a stronger sense of self, and build healthier relationships. My approach is raw, honest, and sometimes a little bit, a lot sweary. I'm an avid beachcomber and a formerly closeted fan of the Hallmark Channel, especially Christmas movies. I wear fingerless gloves almost all year round because my hands are always cold. And I love taking pictures of license plates with my initials BN on them. I don't speak for or endorse any particular 12-step program of recovery. Though I'm a huge fan of 12-step recovery and a member of two such fellowships, I cannot speak for them. If you're ready for real talk and practical tools for transformation, keep listening. This is episode 347, How I Stopped Giving My Time Away and Took My Life Back. Today, I want to talk about time boundaries, and not in a theoretical way. I want to walk you through the very specific things I've done to stop giving my time away to other people so I could start living my life on purpose my way. Because before recovery, I gave away my time constantly, and I didn't even realize that was what I was doing. I used to think my problem was time management. It wasn't. It was that I didn't have boundaries around my time, which meant my time belonged to whoever wanted it. If someone texted me, I responded promptly. If someone emailed me, I stopped what I was doing and responded immediately. If something came up, I dropped everything. And what I didn't understand back then is this. Every time I did that, I was abandoning myself. One of the biggest changes I made was incredibly simple. I turned off the ringer on my phone. Before that, I remember getting pissed off at people for texting me all the time, like they were interrupting me. And then I had this realization, wait, they're not interrupting me. They're just texting. I'm the one interrupting myself. That was a huge shift. So I turned off the ringer. Now I check my messages when I want to. And what's interesting is I never told people don't call me, but over time, people just started texting me first because I trained people around me by changing my behavior. This is what happens when we build boundaries. When we change the dynamics of our interactions with those around us, everything changes. Another thing I did with my phone is I turned off almost all notifications. I only allow maybe 6 apps to give me notifications because I don't need to know that something just happened on the internet. I don't need to know the second that an email comes in. I only want to know what I want to know when I want to know it. That's a boundary. And it's a time boundary, but it's also an energy boundary because every notification is a pull on your nervous system. When I worked at Yale, I had my email set to ding every time something came in, and I would stop whatever I was doing and respond or fulfill the request. I had a reputation among my colleagues for being very responsive to them, which was great for them and terrible for me because I couldn't get my own work done, especially anything that required deep thinking. Now I use time blocking. So I have dedicated time each week for my podcast, my newsletter, social media, podcast pitching for speaking gigs, networking, finances, and of course, coaching my wonderful clients. Instead of my time being up for grabs, I assign my time on purpose. Then I started training my brain to stay on one topic at a time. This is where the Pomodoro technique changed everything for me. If you're not familiar with it, it's a productivity technique where you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. 5-minute break, because as a multitasker, my brain had been trained to leave. I would start something, think of something else, and immediately go do that instead, over and over again. So when I started using the Pomodoro technique, I did something different. When a thought came up, I didn't go do the thing. I wrote it down. And then eventually, I didn't even need to do that anymore because I trusted that it's already handled, or I'll remember it, or it's not really that important. And what started happening was I could actually stay with what I was doing. Now, occasionally I would still have these thoughts like, oh, wait, there's this other thing. And I'm like, no, I've given myself permission that this block of time is dedicated to this particular topic. And I get to spend the entire block of time doing that thing. And that's when I started experiencing flow. This is where time kind of disappears because you're super concentrating. And I became more productive than I have ever been. And mind you, I've always been very productive. Now, I want to say something about the 5-minute breaks that are built into the Pomodoro technique. In the beginning, I did not want to take those breaks, but I forced myself to do it. One reason is that I had a fitness instructor who said, sitting is the new smoking. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. So I wanted to make sure that I got up and moved regularly. So I made it a point to get up and walk up and down the stairs at least once during my 5-minute break. And it's not only good for your body to take breaks, it's good for your mind. I used to be afraid that if I took a break, I would forget where I left off and I wouldn't be able to get back into it. And I found that's absolutely not true. When you give your brain a break, it's really easy to get back into what you're doing. So if you're a creator of some kind, you may believe, I have to keep going on this. I can't stop or I'll lose my place or I'll lose my flow. And my experience is that it's simply not true. Now, I sometimes use those breaks for things like unloading and loading the dishwasher. And I can actually do that during my 5-minute break. So I still get things done around the house, but I don't get sucked into cleaning an entire room like I used to because I have a ringer that goes off when my 5-minute break is done. And also, I don't always take the full 5 minutes, and then sometimes I take more than 5 minutes. Now, all of this stuff I'm talking about isn't just about work. This shows up in my relationship too. My sweetheart and I have a rhythm which we fell into in our first year of our relationship, which now is 7.5 years. So we see each other Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday night. And we trade off who sleeps over whose house, which means we see each other Wednesday morning, Friday morning, and Sunday morning, and we go to church together. And then he comes over to my place at noon on Mondays for yoga, which we've done the entire time that we've been together. So that means that I get to see him some portion of every single day of the week. I get to spend lots of time with him, but I also feel like I have lots of alone time. And we've done this for years. And that time is sacred. Now, it's not perfect, but it's consistent. And what that does is it protects our connection. It's predictable, and it gives us a certain amount of emotional safety because we're not just squeezing each other in. We've made our time a priority, and it's intentional. So we both know this relationship matters. Another boundary I had to learn was around leisure because I was not good at fitting it in. So I literally put a block of time on my calendar and called it sacrosanct barb time. And the only rules are I'm not allowed to work and I'm not allowed to do recovery. That's it. And what I do during those times varies. It could be napping, cooking, reading, watching Hallmark movies, doing puzzles, talking to a friend. But the point is I stopped treating rest and leisure like it was something I needed to earn. I built it into my week. And then I also built in regularly, several times a year, craft dates with a bunch of my women friends because I don't do crafting as much as I would like to, even though I have dedicated space in my home where the stuff is out. Another big shift was moving my podcast recording time off of the weekend. For years, I recorded on Sunday afternoons and sometimes even late Sunday nights, like 11:30 at night, because I had to get it done by Monday for my podcast producer. I kept telling myself, well, eventually I'm going to move my podcast recording time to during the week sometime. And eventually a colleague said to me, Barb, what are you waiting for? So I moved it to during the week. And I cannot tell you what that changed, because now my weekends actually feel like weekends. And speaking of that, I used to coach any day of the week, and it wasn't until the end of 2023 that I stopped taking clients on the weekends. Now, all of these might sound like productivity tips, but they're really not. They're boundaries, and more specifically, they are internal boundaries, because what changed wasn't just my schedule. What changed is that I stopped treating other people's access to me as more important than my relationship to myself. If you're constantly feeling like you don't have enough time, I want you to consider that it might not be so much a time problem. It might be that your time isn't protected by boundaries. And the question becomes, where are you giving your time away and calling it just the way things are? Do your boundaries fall apart the moment someone gets upset? Most people think the hard part of boundaries is knowing what to say, but real challenge comes after you say it. When someone gets upset, when your nervous system lights up, when you feel the urge to explain, soften, or take it back. That's where boundaries tend to collapse. I'm teaching a live workshop called Why Your Boundaries Collapse and How to Make Them Hold. It's live on Zoom for 1 hour on Tuesday, April 14th at 12:30 Eastern Daylight Time. It's all about the missing piece most people are never taught, which is how to build internal safety so you can stay steady even when emotions run high. If you want boundaries that actually hold, go to higherpowercc.com/collapse. Early bird pricing through March 31st.